Hello world, welcome to Smarter with AI. My name is Amay and this is going to be the third video in the series of how you can build an MCP server. If you have missed the first two, the link is always going to be in the description. And during my previous two videos, I got some feedback saying that they were too long. So this time I'm going to keep it shorter. So without any further delay, let's begin. In this tutorial, first we are going to integrate an external API as a tool to our MCP server. And second, we are going to use AI chat to interact with the data that we received from the API. In this example, I'm going to use an API hosted by Postman. Of course, it's a dummy API. You can go ahead and create your own APIs and test it out, but in the interest of time, I'm going to use an existing API which is already hosted on public internet. So you can go to your browser and search for, or the API is called get all employees. So you can just say Postman employees API sample. And if you click this link, don't worry, all the links will be in the description below. You can either use Postman to send the command and you'll get the response back, or a simpler way is copy this URL, open a new tab and just paste it here. Now if you see, we got a response back. If I pretty print it, these are the employees list. The reason I wanted to use this API as an example was, let's say in your company you have some private data, and that private data which is not exposed to public internet is your employees, and that employees data is exposed through a private API which is only accessible through your intranet or on-premise network. Now how can you use AI chat to query this data? Because AI chat will only have all the information which is publicly available. So this is a way where you can expose your private data through an MCP server, connect the MCP server to the AI chat, and then interact with the data through chat or natural language. And that's really exciting. So now let's go back to cursor and start coding. Or in our case, start prompting actually. So like we saw in our last videos, we already have a repository. And I realized that in my previous videos, I have not added the GitHub link for it. Apologies, I'm going to do that and also update my last videos. So if you see, we already had a server.py where we had a MCP server to generate password and also score the password. We don't want to clutter this file anymore. So let's create a new file. Let's go here and click new file and we'll call it server underscore API.py. Now go ahead, open your chat. Since this is a new context and a new functionality, we can do a new chat. We want to stay on the active tab and we can prompt. You can read as I type. Go back to your API. Select this and paste. Maybe I can make this better. I want you to create an MCP server which will query the following API. And let's see, without any further commands, how does it do. Oh, it didn't take the URL. Let me see. It did take the URL, but for some reason it's not showing here, but that's fine. Still working on it. All right. Perfect. Okay, now it's going to check for linter errors. Oh, it already did. It didn't find any. Perfect. Since this time we are going to call an API, it needs an HTTP client. So what it did is it went ahead and added the dependency in our project.toml. Let me see what it did further. All right. Okay, now it went ahead and ran, and boom, within I think 30 seconds maybe, we already have an MCP server running where we integrated an external API. So if you noticed, we asked it to create just one tool, or we didn't even ask it to create one tool. We just asked it to implement a specific API. And what happened was we asked it to create get all employees API, and it did create a tool for that. But it also went ahead and created several tools like get employees by ID, filter employees by age, and then filter employees by salary, and a lot of other tools. The only reason that it went ahead and implemented all the other endpoints for the API is because this API is hosted publicly. And as an example, I wanted to demonstrate an API, but since this is hosted publicly and AI has all the public knowledge, it went ahead and found other APIs, or rather other endpoints on that host, and it implemented the tools for me. So I'm not complaining. For this example, it's going to be perfect. But the thing to keep in mind is your prompting is very important. It's very important on how specific your prompts are. Great. Now the only part that is pending is we have to integrate with Cursor IDE. So typically last time we saw I went to warp in the terminal and I typed in this command, but let me do it through Cursor ID itself. I just want to check, and I have not tried this before, if this would work. Of course, typing the exact command would work, but I want to type it in a natural language. So let me go ahead and do that. Mm, Install this. And if you're wondering why I don't edit parts where I don't expect results from I think that's the most important thing in learning, because even I'm learning as I'm teaching, and sometimes you get results from AI which are very unexpected. Perfect. So it found an MCP configuration file, and it's going to go ahead and install the MCP server in that JSON configuration file. Maybe it saw some errors. No, said installation complete. So now I have to just restart the Cursor IDE and check if it works. I restarted my Cursor IDE and apparently it didn't work. So now let's investigate why it didn't. Like I said, AI is not always perfect. So if I go back to mcp.json file, clearly you can see that it's using Python instead of fast MCP. So as a last attempt, let me prompt that. And if this doesn't work, we can go back to our original terminal command. I'm going to say so what I did was, since we already had a demo MCP server before, I'm playing it safe right now. I'm going to say use fast MCP for running the server, and please follow the structure of a previous MCP server that we already had in our previous videos. So this is playing safe. Let's see. This should work now. All right, it agreed with me. I have noticed that it always agrees with you until unless you're completely wrong. But perfect. I think now this should work. Uh, I'm not too sure what commands is. Okay, that's fine. I think it should work. Oh, it's going ahead and running in terminal, but we are not interested in that. Let's go ahead and stop this. I think now it did a good job of creating the configurations. So I'm going to keep this, save the file, exit, and run cursor again. Now, if I go back to chat settings and scroll down, let me minimize all the other things. If I scroll down to tools and perfect, we have an employee API MCP server here. So you see how it went ahead and corrected itself, but only if you prompted it. It basically gets all the knowledge from public internet. So it didn't know that you're using fast MCP instead of Python, right? Like core Python. So that's what you have to keep in mind when you are using AI. You have to actually, for example, okay, let me go back here, and in my original prompt, if I specify that use, where's my original prompt? Anyway, if I specified if use fast MCP server, then it would have done a good job. But I was too lazy to prompt it additional details. But still, it's great, right? You didn't write any code. You just prompted stuff. You found issues. You corrected those through prompts. So that's a good thing. So just for fun, let's also install this on Cloud Desktop. If you saw my previous videos, I have all the instructions there. So go back to your warp and say fast MCP Cloud Desktop, but this time it's not going to be server.py, it's going to be server.api. And boom, it did install MCP server on Claude. Go back to Claude, open it. Okay. Now in order to verify if it installed correctly, scroll down, and here you see the new MCP server which interacts with the dummy API from Postman, and it added all the tools that are available. Now the last part is to just test it using chat. So let's begin. So the first command that I'm going to prompt in is get me all the employees. And it should again call a tool. Now this is the first time that we are using this MCP server. We have to allow it. And I'm going to say allow always. It's going to go ahead and call the tool, request response, it got back. and boom, you got all the details. Now you can go ahead and say, can you give me in a table format? It's going ahead and creating a HTML for some reason. Is it HTML? Yeah, it is. Which is fine with me. All right. And how many employees do we have? 24, I guess. Yeah. And see what an awesome job it did of creating an HTML actually. And it also rendered the HTML on Claude desktop. And this is how powerful AI is. Like, I know I am repeating the same statement again and again. Now let's go ahead and oh, it also gave me stats. Impressive. Let's go ahead and prompt it something like, can you give me the list of employees within uh, what should I say? Okay, with salary greater than 100K. Okay, let me see what are the salary ranges. Okay, greater than 100K. Okay, good. Greater than 100K and less than maybe 200K. Okay, so now it also had one more other tool called filter employees by salary. I thought that this is going to be per MCP server basis, but it's actually per tool basis, like the permissions. So let's say allow always. Now it's going to go ahead and enter the parameters min salary, max salary, perfect. It got the response back. All right. Now it's getting the employees again. Perfect. And we got it here. How can I update this table? Can you update the HTML file? Let's see how it works. Perfect. It's going to regenerate the HTML file that it generated before and render it for you here. Oh, it did render, but something happened. Probably it's self-correcting itself, self-reflecting. Okay, perfect. Oh, now it also gave one more stat, lowest in the range, 103K, and highest in the range, 198K. Perfect. So 103 180. And you can do wonders with it. Wonders. Like I don't even have any comments. Okay. So let's go back to cursor and do the same thing. So let me start a new chat. And we don't need active tab this time. Can you give me the list of employees? But over here, cursor is more focused towards code. So you would see an answer, but you would not get any HTML rendering or any visualizations. So that's the difference. But both work perfectly. And cursor, if you see, it's doing a good job of giving you in a good format. All right, we can type in the same prompt that we typed here about the salary range. Okay, where did it go? Yeah, this one. And it should work flawlessly as Claude. Basically, here we are using Claude for Sonnet, to be honest. So it's the same model. And boom, perfect. And this is awesome. So that is the end of the video. To recap, what did we learn? You have to be very specific at prompting in order to achieve your goals. So in my case, I was being a little lazy because I wanted to just demonstrate the power of AI and prompting. But you have to be very specific at prompting in order to achieve the goals that you require. Like you saw in the case previously, right? I just prompted it to generate me one tool, but since my prompt was not specific enough, it went ahead and did a job of creating all the endpoints in that specific host, which is not bad, but you have to be mindful of that. Second, always review the code that AI generates because sometimes it can go rogue, and it's always a good practice to always review the code or always review the answers or whatever where AI generates it for you. Hey, if you do like the video, please let me know. Even if you have any constructive feedbacks, please let me know. This is something I'm doing out of my comfort space, and I would like to know what people say. So, thank you, and thanks for being with me for so long. Bye bye.